Good morning, everyone. As you can see, I'm here a bit earlier than normal. I managed to get away earlier than our normal curfew. We've got a 5 o'clock curfew at the moment due to COVID, but I slipped out a bit earlier trying to get here just in time for the sunrise. We do have a few clouds this morning, as you can see in the background, but unfortunately nothing spectacular. I think what I'll do is, because I don't have time to go and find one of my favorite trees, I'm going to just take the drone up for now and see if I can get at least one or two sunrise shots with maybe some of the mountains in the background lit up. Maybe the clouds will reflect a bit of light onto them. But yes, welcome back to my channel and thanks for watching. Here you can see what I'm seeing on the screen of the drone, the DJI Mavic 2 Pro. I've got about -1 stop of exposure compensation dialed in just to make sure that I don't overexpose the highlights. But yes, there's maybe a photo in there. I will show you afterwards what I managed to capture. Here we have the images captured by the drone. Not much color on the clouds at this point, but what I do like are the different layers of mountains. There are at least 3 ridges going into the distance, with a tiny bit of fog between them as well. So I think this is quite an interesting image and worthwhile the effort to go and try and capture it. I just wish the clouds were lit up a bit. While I'm standing here waiting for the color to change, the mosquitoes are having a feast. It's really amazing how they can breed and survive in these dry conditions. There's no standing water within a couple of kilometers, but still they are here. We do have a little bit of color in the sky now. I'm just sad that I couldn't get into position at a nice tree for some foreground interest. This curfew is really messing with us because it only gives you about 20 minutes to get into position from home. It's not very feasible, not very practical. But at least over the next month or 2, 3, the sunrise will be later. Maybe the curfew will change as well. We can hope. We can live in hope. And then we'll be able to capture the sunrises that we want. But it's a very pleasant morning out, other than the mosquitoes. So I'm going to go for a bit of a hike, just to explore a bit. I don't think after sunrise the light will really be spectacular, but I want to see if I can go find a few compositions in case I want to come back tomorrow morning or some other morning and I need to rush into position due to time constraints. Here you can see the composition that I'm looking at. You can hear the jackals in the background. I'm basically just looking at the mountains with a bit of light behind them. 1/20th of a second, f10 and ISO 100, no exposure compensation. And I think what I'll do is I'll also shoot it at slightly lower f-stop. I really don't need to go that high. Of course there's nothing in the foreground really that I need to keep in focus. 2-second delay on the shutter. Let's try and take a slightly darker image. I'm not going to bracket, do a HDR type of bracket, but -1.3 stops, just to make sure I capture absolutely everything in the highlights, especially the smaller highlights. You see there where the main color is. Here is the image that I captured. I did crop it a bit, especially the dead area above the clouds. I didn't really like that. I did lift the shadows a bit. Other than that, I didn't have to do much. Interesting to see the different lines coming from the foreground, some trees, and then the roughly 25-kilometer distance with some fog in it, and then the featureless mountains, quite high mountains in the back, with the clouds with quite nice color. I think after this I'll go for a short hike just around the area to explore a bit and maybe try and find a composition or two that I can use in the future when I have better light. At least there are some clouds around this morning. It's not totally clear, so there could still be 1 or 2 usable compositions. In the distance, in the valley, there's a little bit of fog as well, And I think if we do get a bit of wind from the south, like we sometimes do, the clouds will roll in from the coast. So there's still hope for this morning. This is the final image that I captured of the sunrise. As you can see, the sun is now above the little hilltop, and the sky has turned golden yellow, very warm colors. Even the foreground has turned a bit yellow, and you can see some of the trees in the front, small trees. Not a spectacular photo, but I like it. It kind of shows what the day is going to be like, extremely hot. I'm going to go for my walk now with the sun up, just exploring to see if I can find a few more compositions for future reference. I think it's very important to go to the same area again and again, because as you get to know it, you see additional compositions. You often see the smaller compositions, not the huge wide vistas. And as you get to know the area, when the light is in a specific way, you know where to go. You know, okay, today that tree is going to work, or that rock formation is going to be spectacular with this light. So you don't waste time finding something, you can go straight to it. And often in a small area of a couple of 100 meters square, you will find that you can, over time, find lots and lots of beautiful compositions as the weather changes, as the seasons change. Time to pack up and go for the walk. Lots of mosquitoes still around, so I should keep the car doors closed. I don't want to take these mosquitoes home. If they stay here, they only bother me in the morning. If I take them home, they bother me all the time. As you can see, there's still a few clouds about, so I'm going to try and make one or two images here, play with a couple of different compositions. I think initially I like taking just the environment shot, not for portfolio use, but to give me a reference in the future that, you know, this is what the tree looks like, this is what the background looks like. Maybe when the sun is in this position or the clouds are like that, this will work. So I'm just going to take an image like this, 1/50th of a second, f10, ISO 100, 2-second delay on the shutter release to try and keep the shake away. What a beautiful little tree with some mountains in the background. Unfortunately, also some buildings in the background. You see on the left hand side, those white buildings. That is actually a hotel, I believe. So I'll try and get an angle that doesn't include the hotel. With the soft light at the moment, it's actually quite nice. Unfortunately, there's no direct light on the tree trunk. These white tree trunks of the shepherd trees are quite spectacular. Often when it's a bit wet, when there's maybe a bit of rain around, or as we often get your fog, those tree trunks will be even whiter than they are at the moment. So on this image, I might in post-processing lift the highlights slightly on the tree trunk, just to make it stand out a bit more. 1/40th of a second, f10, ISO 100. I am quite happy with this given the conditions. Just shows you, never give up. When I left the vehicle, I was thinking I'll probably not even take the camera out, and I walked straight to this tree, which I haven't seen before, by the way. The background is not perfect. The mountains are fine, but what I do not like are there's some buildings in the distance, a farmhouse. Off to the left there's a hotel, and off to the right in the far distance is actually a town, a tiny little town. As the sun is rising, it's actually going behind cloud cover, and the clouds have actually moved in. Strangely enough, they predicted it for daybreak, for sunrise, the clouds, but the clouds are a bit late. But I'm not complaining. At least they're giving me some soft light this morning, and soft light is better than harsh light, even though it's not spectacular. I think eventually I need to work this tree from all sides. At the moment there's a bit of a low-lying area behind it, which is fine. In the other direction there's a mountain. At my back at the moment there's a mountain. So I think if we have fog moving in, there will be a couple of nice compositions from the other side, because there are also some trees with spectacular flowers in spring. It's called a speckboom. And it's quite an interesting plant. Apparently it's one of the plants that produces the most oxygen, converts carbon dioxide into oxygen, and extracts carbon from the atmosphere. So that in these current times with global warming and all that, this is quite important. Not so much fun at the moment. I see the mosquitoes have followed me. You might see some of them buzzing around the camera. So either time to move on or get the drone to hover over my head. That is quite effective. Here is the image that I managed to capture. I'm happy with the image. The composition I quite like. You've got the root in the front that leads into the tree, and then the tree splits up, left hand going, the larger section going to the larger cloud, and the right hand crosses the horizon with a kink into the open space. The light was actually quite nice, the side light from the sun just peeking out below the clouds. It lit up the tree trunk quite nicely. The only processing I did, as you'll see in the final version, is I lifted the highlights in the trunk a tiny little bit, same on the ground, and then I also got rid of the one or two buildings in the background, just loaned them out. think I might have found another composition here. With the sun behind the clouds, there's some quite interesting light play in the clouds, and with the tree in the foreground, just enough separation with a small little tree in the background. There might be something here that I can use. I'm just going to take a few images to see if there's anything as the light changes, because as we're talking the light is changing. I quite like the way the clouds are lit up at the moment, showing there's a lot of moisture in the air. Also on the horizon, you might not be able to see it on the video, but I'll show you later on the photo. Between us and the mountains in the distance, there's a slight layer of fog separating the foreground and the background. Could be quite spectacular. I just need to see if I can capture that the way I'm seeing it. It's not always easy. When you get home and you look at the photos and you think, that's not what I saw. Where's my beautiful image? 1/200th of a second, f8, ISO 100, and my normal 2-second delay on the shutter. I used to shoot with a remote release, but it was always a pain carting it around, and I always had the wrong one for the camera. So I'm only using the 2-second delay now, which is quite fine. It never causes any vibration, and the little 2-second delay between images, you get used to it. Here we have the image I managed to capture. You'll see in the raw file that I'm showing you first that I had to underexpose by a substantial amount to ensure that I don't burn out any highlights in the sky, especially around the sun. This is the process version. You will notice that I lifted the shadows quite a bit, especially the foreground. The light was quite nice and soft and warmish on the tree trunk, which I really like. I'm not 100% happy with the composition, but I really wanted to include the horizon towards the right as well. You'll see in the distance the mountains, but in front of the mountains there's a bit of fog. So I could maybe consider cropping the right hand off a bit. I'll think about it, maybe have a look at it. But overall, I'm really happy with the image. I think it'll go nicely with my Karoo tree collection. I will also at some point have a look at maybe a black and white monochrome conversion, because I'm working on a coffee book table, specifically monochrome only. But I'm really happy with this image. The foreground could have been nicer, but I will be revisiting this tree. This is not the last time you'll see it. Well, I think the morning wasn't a total waste. Between the slight sunrise, some colors, some interesting shapes in the clouds, and more importantly, the discovery of this little tree. Because not only is this tree beautiful, it's also in a position where it's got a drop towards the back. So if there's any kind of fog or cloud, it'll help with isolation towards the back. And in the other direction, maybe late afternoon, with the sun setting behind the tree, and we'll get some light on the mountains. I think that is definitely going to be spectacular. The mountains has a couple of smallish, but a couple of white cliffs that I know when the late afternoon or the sunset light catches it will probably light up quite nicely. I'll show that to you just now. So this tree is going to get marked on my map, and if nothing else, this tree alone makes the trip worthwhile this morning. That, and of course being with you, here with you, and also being in nature, birds, jackals, all kinds of things flying around. Spectacular. Thanks for joining me so far. Well, back at the car, ready to head home for breakfast. It was quite a nice morning out. Sunrise was not perfect, but it was usable, I think. Some nice colors there. Very important for me was the discovery of this little tree. Not only the shape of the tree that's interesting, but I also love the location. On the edge of a hill, mountains in the background, some smaller trees close to it, and then towards the north, the mountain with the cliffs, maybe for an afternoon shoot. But it's definitely going to need either low cloud like we get here, or alternatively some fog to give some atmosphere and separation. And then if the sun cooperates, we might actually get a portfolio shot here. But at least it's another dot on my map of places to get back to. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me today, being out in nature. I also just want to show you the area as well. That's why you see quite a few drone shots, not just the specific photos, so you can see why I love this area so much. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. That helps with the algorithms, and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. I'm planning on heading into the mountains at some point, and then depending on travel restrictions or the COVID situation, travel times, I want to head towards the coast and shoot a bit in the Knysna forest and also the coastline. But at the moment we can't leave early in the morning. We're not allowed to get back late at night. Plus you're not allowed to go on the beaches, so there's no chances of any seascapes. Hopefully in the future that'll change. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions or things you want me to explain, or maybe areas you want me to shoot, please ask below in the comments. I'll be quite happy to help where I can. Have a nice day and see you in the next video. Cheers.